Alright, I think it's time to do something that I should have done a long time ago. Expose TurfNation. Someone probably said at some point that in order to think critically, one must be just as critical of oneself as one is of others. In other words, I spend so much time criticizing and analyzing other people, but I need to have the same standards for myself. I think a reflective critique of my journey here on YouTube and the internal struggles I've been having recently with regards to the future of this channel has been a long time coming. Now this is not a video that I'm making because I think my story deserves to be told, but I think there's value in taking a step back and reflecting on oneself. It's something that I try to do as often as I can. I think it's healthy to constructively critique yourself, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, where you want to go, what you're really trying to say, and whether or not you're saying it. Of course, as long as you keep it in moderation and don't end up just bringing yourself down. I think self-reflection is important, and recently I've been feeling as if I've reached a roadblock. I don't truly recognize myself online anymore. I'm having constant conflicts between who I am in real life and the persona I'm creating online. And I've been going back and forth for a long time now, trying to figure out what my identity is and what this channel is really all about. However, I thought instead of sitting with this conflict alone, I'd share it with those of you who want to listen. I want to do some introspection, and I think that by sharing that with you, I can't as easily hide away from the scary questions that I tend to lock away. And perhaps we can all figure out together which direction this channel needs to go. Now this video could very well end up being pointless. Maybe I don't learn anything. Maybe I just say a bunch of nonsense and this ever-looming confusion in who TurfNation is just keeps growing. But we won't know unless we try. Now in this video I'll be taking a little bit of a journey down memory lane and looking back at some of the influential moments of my channel, and looking not only at the things I agree or disagree with past me on, but also how I've changed. I'll be delving into the Anomaly Inc drama, my journey through the pandemic, my critical drinker video, and finally the present day and the problems that I think have arisen for this channel. There'll be timestamps in the description for these respective sections. Also, I want to say that this is absolutely the best time to leave your own opinions and criticisms of me down below. Please be as constructive as possible so that I can learn and keep improving, and make this community and channel better for all of you. But without further ado, I think it's time to bring some of my baggage into the light. This is a self-reflective expose on TurfNation. So like I said, in order to do this properly, I feel I need to start from the beginning, or at least the first piece of drama that established the direction that this channel was going to take, the Anomaly Inc drama. So here I was, a channel with around 30 subscribers who had predominantly been doing Minecraft content, but had recently begun delving into film, with videos about the rise of Skywalker for example. But I also made commentary videos on people like Jake Paul and J-Station, and I had even begun my infamous Toxic Star Wars series, with the first video being on the amazing Lucas. And honestly, this content was doing so much better than the Minecraft content, but that also wasn't a big feat either. But then I made that video on Anomaly Inc and the trajectory of this channel changed. Anomaly Inc, who at this point had around 37,000 subscribers, made 2 live streams where he in total spent over 9 hours responding to my video. I made a short response and eventually I'd come on his show and talk to him about the videos. It was all very exciting, and despite my grievances with Anomaly Inc, I still appreciated him for allowing me to come on his stream. That really gave me a chance to share myself to a wider audience. However, this was a weird time for me because looking back, I admire my guts and how I didn't back down when I saw something I thought was wrong. However, I also cringe at these videos because I absolutely was not ready for the big stage yet. I didn't know how to verbally argue my points very well. I still had so much more to learn about the world and how things are. I mean, I still have a lot to learn, but I definitely know more than I did back then, which is ultimately a good thing. And I'm glad I started making videos because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am today, both mentally and emotionally. However, I was still very naive back then, and I hadn't really formed my own identity on the internet yet. I simply saw something I thought was wrong and I called it out. Not always knowing what it truly was I was pointing out, and I didn't necessarily have the arguments to combat it yet. I knew his videos were problematic because he was part of this extensive attack on the Star Wars sequels and the people who liked those movies, which had been going on for a couple years at this point. I was a person who quite liked The Last Jedi, for example, just like how I enjoyed most Star Wars films, but I was annoyed at how sequel fans were treated online, because I'd seen it a lot firsthand. Now, of course, I know that the problems with the Star Wars fandom are so much more complex than just people hating on the sequels. The toxicity of this fandom runs deep and its history is vast. For a while I only focused on sequel haters. And although the outrage towards The Last Jedi did cause a ripple effect of anti-SJW sentiment on the internet, the problems with this fandom don't just boil down to sequel haters. However, like I said, I was naive. I watched his videos and wanted to respond, but a lot of my arguments sadly boiled down to whataboutisms. And I'll return to this in a bit. But honestly, looking back, my old videos do kinda slap. Like, look at this legendary intro to a video. Anomaly Inc is a hypocrite. He's a Star Wars fanatic who has a show called Revenge of the Prequels, in which he calls out people on their bullshit reasonings and vague arguments as to why the prequels are bad. Which is a premise I actually really like, because I very much dislike it when people trash something and hate on it without any solid evidence or background. However, Anomaly Inc is also a toxic Star Wars fan, and I want to talk about him. But firstly, since in my last video I got called one-sided, I wanted to show how you can find positives and negatives with any movie. And to show this, I'm gonna briefly praise and criticize each of the Star Wars trilogies. Honestly, it's weirdly therapeutic to watch your old videos back. I'd highly recommend it. Seeing how much you've grown can help you appreciate who you are now and how far you've come. And if it's hard for you to watch yourself back like it is for me, then that's just all the more reason to do it. Now, to get back on track, my opinions on Star Wars have changed quite a lot. But that's not what's wrong here. Even if I don't agree with all my takes back then that's still okay. Not everyone needs to like and enjoy the same things. Like I've said many times before, part of being a fan of something isn't just about loving every part of it. You can still be just as much a fan of something while acknowledging its flaws as someone who loves all parts of it. If you love Star Wars and accept other people's dislove for Star Wars, then I can't see how that doesn't make you a Star Wars fan. However, some fans out there are gatekeepers, hypocritical, and want to make people feel bad about their opinions. They take shit way too seriously, and it just ruins the fun for everyone else. And sadly, in an attempt to call this out, I may have accidentally dabbled in that same toxicity myself. The first video of his that I saw was the one on I Hate Everything.
I don't like people like I Hate Everything, not because he dislikes the prequels, as everyone has a right to their opinion. I don't like people like I Hate Everything because they are a bunch of gigantic, malicious hypocrites.
You say you don't like people who are malicious towards the creators, and you mentioned Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best, which is a great example of the effect of toxic Star Wars fans. However, you yourself are being malicious towards the sequels. Like, just look at your intro.
The main thing is to protect these characters, make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them.
Can I just say, though, a lot of times I would say to Ryan, we got to think about the fans. And he said, no, we got to think about the story, and we got to think about our movie, which
This is toxic! I don't care if you have some detailed reason as to why you dislike the movie somewhere on your channel, but the fact is that you're being vague in your arguments that lack any support. This is what you're accusing people of doing to the prequels. If you'll go to the ends of the earth protecting your dear prequels, then do it. No one fucking cares. But don't start attacking other people for having a problem with them, and liking a movie you personally despise. Now, despite my arguments also being a bit vague and very unsubstantiated here, I still think the overall point is quite agreeable. Don't go on and on about how people are unfairly hating on the prequels and being malicious, which certainly has happened, don't get me wrong, but then also doing the exact same thing towards the sequels. This is hypocritical, and it doesn't help combat the problem. However, making this point, I do fall into the same trap of being hypocritical too.
I'm still waiting on your examples. Showing the pod race sequence certainly doesn't help your argument.
Well, where the fuck are your examples? He says the original ideas in the prequels aren't shown properly, and you say that the sequels have bad writing. He didn't give examples, but you haven't given any examples either in this whole video. You're so locked in your own mind that your opinions are so unwavered by anything, that they begin to lose their meaning. Showing the pod racing scene definitely helps his argument. That scene is too drawn out, has no significant impact other than being something cool to look at. But sadly, it's more enjoyable than any of the character interactions, which, given how uneventful this scene is to the whole story, is sad. It's not a good scene. I thought I was making a video defending Star Wars from toxic fans, but instead I was defending the sequels by criticizing the prequels, which isn't really a good basis for an argument no matter if it's true or not. This was during a time when I was high on The Last Jedi and quite low on the prequels, which as I'd gotten older didn't quite give me the same enjoyment as when I was younger. I still like The Last Jedi quite a lot, but I won't defend it by shitting on the prequels and vice versa. That's a dick move. But it was a little bit toxic of me to call out Anomaly Inc's hypocrisy, when I was being a hypocrite myself. I've said countless times that it's perfectly acceptable to not like the Star Wars sequels, but in some of my earlier videos in particular, I go after people for not liking them. Now, most of the people that I've called out, such as people within the fandom menace, have taken their dislike for the Star Wars sequels and other movies they hate, and use it to further their own political and personal agendas, a movement of anti-SJW rhetoric that I think has had serious consequences for online culture. I will always stand by myself calling these people out. However, looking at this video in isolation, I definitely didn't lay out my arguments very well. It came off as hypocritical, and overall my videos failed to have the impact that I wanted them to have. But I just want to point out that this is not to defend Anomaly Inc. I still don't like his content, but the arguments that I laid out in this original video aren't really charitable or well thought out. I let my emotions do the talking, and while I still believe I was trying to do the right thing, I don't think it came off that way. However, this was one of my first videos. Obviously it's going to be bad and poorly argumented, because I didn't know jack shit about being an online commentator. However, I think I did earn some respect from people by being unwavering. I didn't care if people disagreed with me, I didn't care if I offended people by calling them out, and I was quite passionate about my goal of tackling some of the problematic aspects of the internet. I mean, one of the core characteristics of my channel is that my videos often get bombarded with dislikes, and the hate comments I get have never bothered me. I think that's part of why my audience began to steadily grow. Now, why did I mention this Anomaly Inc stuff? Wasn't it so long ago? Don't I know that I've changed? I think most people don't like their first videos. However, I feel like I haven't ever really confronted these videos. I never watched them back, perhaps because I've been afraid that what I'll see isn't what I've imagined of myself. I think I've perceived my time here on YouTube in such a bright light, sometimes as the savior that fandoms needed. But this is of course a stupid and idealized vision of myself, because in reality I'm just a person who says some words on the internet and some people choose to listen to them. But that's not so bad, because isn't that what most of us are when we create content? I think it was just easier to see myself in a brighter light online, despite that not being real or what I needed. I don't know what I'm really trying to say here, I guess I just wanted to point it out. However, shortly after this, the pandemic happened, and suddenly I had a lot of free time to just sit around and grind out videos, which I did, and I slowly improved my craft, while gaining both supporters and more enemies. I continued calling out other Star Wars YouTubers who I believed to be toxic, but then another channel-defining series began, which was my Why It's Great series. Now I had a chance to spread positivity, which is what I wanted, but in a way that didn't require me calling other people idiots. It was a chance to just appreciate the movies that I liked, but it also allowed me to rectify some of the mistakes I'd made early on, such as criticizing the prequels to praise the sequels. But now I was making videos about The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, Revenge of the Sith, The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and a bunch of other movies that in my opinion are underrated. They're some of my fondest videos, and it's sad to me that I don't make them very often anymore, because I feel like they helped me create a proper core audience of people who didn't necessarily need to agree on everything, but who had the common goal of being decent people and making communities a fun place to be a part of again, even if that was just my community. However, then I also started delving into political topics, which absolutely made my community a bit more combative. I was back to calling people out who I believe were problematic, but this time instead of focusing on toxic Star Wars fans, I was going after the fandom menace, who didn't just stick to Star Wars but are still to this day covering everything deemed to be woke. Now, my politics on this channel aren't really that well known. I mean, most people see me as left-leaning, and they'd be very right in saying so. I am a Danish boy, so many people in America would probably call me a socialist if they heard my views. However, I've tried to stay away from deeper politics. I don't talk about how the economy should be structured, except for the occasional dig at capitalism and corporatism. I don't talk about the intricacies of foreign policy. I don't talk about who the next president of the United States should be, mainly also because I'm not American, but I try to keep my politics on YouTube focused on what I think I can make a difference in, and that I understand. My main focus is the culture war and trying to combat it, often tackling the reactionary and anti-SJW sentiment, but I also do try to call out both sides of the culture war when I feel it's needed. I also try to stay focused on pop culture and cinema and gaming, which are the areas that I'm at least trying to gain some expertise within. It's why I don't just call out problematic politicians unless they have some relevancy to the subjects that I know how to talk about. Luckily for me, a lot of them have started delving into nerd culture to gain support from those communities, and I will of course be ready to provide a counter to that, because that's what I've always tried to be, someone who provides an alternative argument to the steadily growing reactionary sentiment, but coming at those arguments with the intent to cause change or at least understanding in those I disagree with. Because I do want to believe the best in people. I think that most people are just victims of this culture war, that only the people at the top really benefit from this outrage. The people at the bottom, whether or not they agree that wokeness is corrupting Western society, will still suffer while the privileged people reap the benefits. And I think that especially with the way the internet is, the respectful tone of debate and discussion has almost been lost. When you're online, you don't truly see the person opposite you. You just see some words that may or may not be formulated into an argument, and then you reply to it, and then they reply to it too, and then a real discussion never really happens. I really want to believe that if we all sat down and had real conversations, we'd agree on so much more than what modern politics would have us believe. Of course, there would still be radical people on both sides who either hate women and minorities or who hate men, and naturally, I'm not saying everyone would agree on everything or that that would even be a good thing. No, we're different. And that difference is important to help us all grow together. But I do think that most people would at least be able to see each other as human beings, and instead of squabbling about whether or not Velma being gay or the Little Mermaid being black is a sin to the human race, we'd be able to talk about real issues, and fans of media could go back to being fans instead of soldiers. I care a lot about social issues, and I don't think I'll ever stop being at least a little bit political on this channel. And while from the start I haven't ever wanted to waver on calling out racist, misogynistic, homophobic, and other forms of discriminatory trends, and just generally things that I think are unethical, I still don't want to just divide people. I don't think I'll necessarily change anything by just calling someone a racist person flat out. Don't get me wrong, they very well might be racist, but will I be able to make an argument that they will listen to if I open up by insulting them? No, I won't. I'd mostly just keep the people who agree with me on my side and the people who disagree with me on the other side. This is something that I didn't want to happen and really wanted my videos to be as fair and civil but still unwavering as possible. But as I will talk about later, recently this absolutely hasn't been the case. And that's the main point of this video. But I really need to give all the context I can, and so we still have an important video to look back on. My video on the critical drinker. Now this is without a doubt my biggest video of all time, and to this day it still keeps getting views. The large majority of them of course are fans of the critical drinker. The like to dislike ratio on this video is very impressive if I do say so myself, and I still get daily comments varying from how jealous I am of the critical drinker and how I'm just using his fame for my own benefit, to hitting me with expertly crafted rebuttals, to some actually interesting and relevant arguments. However, I hadn't rewatched this video in over a year, so I was actually quite nervous. Perhaps the arguments that I thought were good back then don't actually hold up, and perhaps I'd find myself actually being deserving of all the criticism I got. I guess this video was a soft spot for me, but I decided that I must watch it, and so I did. But what did I think of it? Now first of all, I started out by being quite accepting of his opinions when we disagree on movies. I don't like not trying to get at least something positive in there, because I think it adds a civil tone. This is again something that I want to get back on track with because I've been doing it less and less.
I also have the sneaking suspicion that this film was bumped from its original pre-Endgame slot to make way for a certain overpowered Mary Sue character that Marvel laughably thought was going to be the new face of the MCU.
I really don't understand calling a Marvel character a Mary Sue. Characters in the MCU are powerful as fuck. They're superheroes. We have Thor, we have the Hulk, we have Wanda, we have Vision. All characters who fit your descriptions of an overpowered Mary Sue. But since it's Brie Larson, the most evil creature on the planet, then you have a problem with it. Grow up and give actual film criticism. But the video also has these small inconsistencies, such as my Mary Sue argument, which really isn't that deep. I didn't say that Thor, the Hulk, or Vision are Mary Sues. I meant to say that Captain Marvel isn't a Mary Sue just because she's powerful, because she also goes through trials and tribulations. Mary Sue is a word that has begun to lose meaning in the online space, just like the word woke, but it often gets used to criticize solely female characters or minority characters. That was the argument that I was trying to make, but it didn't come off that way. The part about Falcon and the Winter Soldier is where my inexperience with political topics really begins to show. Captain America has always been about the evils of modern culture. Just try to think for a second what the reaction would be if Captain America was real in our world and he gave the mantle to a black person? Think about how many proud white nationalists would say that it wasn't constitutional. Institutional racism is real. Societal racism is real. It's what the foundation of the world is built on. I throw around words like institutional racism and societal racism when I didn't truly fathom what those words actually meant. But I don't think it's far-fetched at all to point out that institutional racism absolutely exists in many places in the world, especially in America, and there absolutely would be a racist reaction towards a black Captain America if it happened in our world. I mean, it already happens in way smaller instances, for example with The Little Mermaid. However, this section is just all over the place, and I don't substantiate my arguments. I naively assume that everyone knows how and in what ways racism affects Western society nowadays, without me having to build my argument with evidence, which is something I definitely want to focus on doing more and more, because what is an argument that lacks support? Was just a statement. I don't think this section had the intended effect, and probably came off as whiny. However, I also say that if you don't support social issues, then you should at least stay quiet about it. Listen, even if you don't care about social issues, which would be kinda iffy, but let's just say you don't care, the least you can do is just not say anything about it, which is an incredibly idiotic take. I'm making the argument that people should censor themselves if the majority don't like what they're saying. That's absolutely not the argument I want to make. I think free speech is incredibly important, and when I say that, I'm not saying that cancel culture is threatening our freedom, or that mass private social media platforms banning people for violating the terms of service is censorship. No, those arguments are also dumb. What I am saying is that free speech is really important. Obviously, there are some forms of speech that need to be dealt with severely, such as terrorist threats, or hate speech, or speech that leads to violence. However, and this part is crucial, there's another very important part of free speech, which is that everyone has free speech. You may have the freedom to say what you want, but others also have the freedom to call you out for it if they don't like it. Those two aren't mutually exclusive. When I say that people should be free to say what they want, I'm saying that people with hateful views should speak up so that the rest of us can see who they are. And don't act like people aren't already allowed to say what they want. Politicians are transphobic, homophobic, racist, and sexist all the time. And many of them still have their jobs. Heck, many politicians have done way worse things and still have their jobs. Cancel culture is a way for people to speak out against people who they think are harmful. But I ask you all the question, how many people have actually been cancelled? Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I very strongly disagree with my own statement that if you don't support social issues, then you shouldn't talk about it. That's a harmful statement, and I take it back. However, there are absolutely things that I stand by when it comes to my takes on the critical drinker, such as me calling him and his audience out for harassing Brie Larson, who really has done nothing to these people other than existing and being sassy in a couple of interviews. This behavior is disgusting. He also just generally seems to have a severe bias towards women in media, and I know that his argument is that he doesn't like it when representation is done poorly, not the representation itself. However, I just don't think this adds up, especially when you look at the way he talks about female characters compared to male characters.
Thor Ragnarok seemed like great fun, at least until you started to look a bit deeper and realised that he basically spends the whole movie playing second fiddle to strong female character and strong female antagonist, and getting his ass kicked by both.
He just seems to have different standards for men and women in media. And finally, his video on Gina Carano is still really weird. He just rambles on and on about how great Gina Carano is, and he disguises all the controversial stuff she has said in this cloak of Shakespearean language that the critical drinker is known for. So yeah, overall I still stand by most of what I said in this video. I don't like the critical drinker, and while I respect that many people do, and that his videos are at least more creative and unique compared to some of the people he gets compared to, I still think he's problematic. And I'm glad I called him out. I laid out some arguments and some people agreed and many people disagreed. However, there are some glaring problems with this video. I didn't know nearly as much as I do now, but that's also okay. My knowledge, skill, and ability to think critically has improved, which I hope it will keep doing until the day that I die. Personal improvement isn't something to shy away from. It's something we should acknowledge, appreciate, and cherish. However, in order to do this, we need to accept that we aren't perfect, and that we've made mistakes, because you can't improve if there's nothing to improve upon. The very nature of evolving means that there was obstacles to overcome in the first place. In this video, I have talked about topics that I didn't fully understand yet. but that's also okay. Like I said, you can't get better at something if you don't have the guts to dive headfirst into situations that take you out of your comfort zone, and risk making mistakes, which is something I believe I've usually been quite good at. Even if I've been afraid of failing, it rarely keeps me back from even trying. However, an important part of it that I perhaps haven't been very good at is reflecting. Taking a step back to think and analyze on myself. What good is a mistake if you don't learn from it? But to learn from something, you need to recognize that there's a problem to begin with. And to locate those problems in the first place, you need to reflect. I want to keep improving, but still stay true to myself. However, I feel like my videos recently haven't really been helping me take those steps to improve. I think I've been holding myself back. Now we finally arrived at the true point of this video, and it's that recently, I've been feeling that this channel has lost some of its identity. I think I saw the numbers go up and then I just got blinded by the money and views. I started realizing that I could spend less time on my videos and still get a lot of views. And this is not to say that I've sold my soul to the devil. I haven't ever lost my message. I don't believe I'm a grifter, because I've never been insincere about the message I want to convey. But I think the increase in both views, revenue, and ease of editing led me astray without even realizing, to a point where my channel in reality doesn't fit with the ideal that I have inside my mind. In an attempt to call out the people getting angry over black people appearing in Rings of Power or the people crying over a black mermaid, I ended up slamming the label of racist on those people and went on to spend a minimal amount of time actually formulating my arguments, and looking back, I think I just added to the fuel. Some of these videos, despite still defending something I think deserves to be defended, have ended up just becoming culture war bullshit. I didn't give these videos the time they deserved, and I've slowly been losing passion over the last 6 months. I've been waiting anxiously for the next controversy that I could hop on and make a few bucks off of it. Because that's the thing, I didn't make a lot of money, it was just more than I did before, which was not a lot. And honestly, I've become the very thing I swore to destroy. My videos have gotten lazy, they've become sloppy, and they don't feel like me anymore. And it's left me with a lot of confusion. As I'm getting closer to 10,000 subscribers, which has been my goal right from the beginning, I don't want to reach it still being confused as to what this channel is and who I as the creator am. I feel like TurfNation has lost some of its identity, and I've been slowly realizing this for many months now, but I've never accepted it until now, and I want to do something about it, but I'm not yet sure what. I've been telling myself for so long that I need to focus on what I'm really interested in, but no matter how many times I do this, something just never feels right. It doesn't feel like me. And although I am a different person now than I was back then, I still feel like TurfNation was more me back then. Finding the balance between passion and the prospect of success is difficult and is something that most people can in some way relate to. I recently decided to slow down and make a video that I really wanted to make, which was my Pirates of the Caribbean video. I had a lot of fun making it, and I was really excited to release it, but it just didn't do nearly as well as any of my other content, even though I poured a lot of myself into it. And this may seem like a privileged rant. Oh, people on the internet didn't appreciate my little art project. And you'd be right in thinking that. Here I am, having an audience that likes watching my videos, and I'm complaining about not getting as many views as I want. But I think it's a relevant topic that many content creators can resonate with. As a full-time psychology student, I don't have that much free time, but I spend a lot of it making videos, and despite the fact that I like making the videos, one of the best parts of it is seeing the reaction of those who watch it. And when a video does well, then that's somehow an indicator that my video was good and even better than some of my other videos. And trying to figure out what type of content I really want to make, whether I'm more motivated by views or passion or somewhere in between, has been on my mind a lot. And I don't know if this is a dilemma I'll ever overcome, and maybe I don't have to. Maybe it helps keep me in check. But one thing I have figured out for absolute certain is that the person I've been on this platform recently, it just isn't me. It has the attributes that I have, but it just isn't me. And I need to find myself again, and no matter how much soul searching I try to do in real life, I think the answers to my questions need to come from my videos themselves. So with that, what does the future of TurfNation hold? And honestly, I don't know. I don't want to make any promises because I don't even know what I truly want, but I want to figure it out, and I guess that journey starts by making some changes. I want to spend more time and effort making my videos again. Rather than short drama videos that take me a day to make, but ultimately have no real identity. Listen, I'm glad that I've begun showing my face more and more because I do want to build more of a relationship with you guys, and I don't want every video to be a 30-minute long video essay either of a movie I like or an influencer I don't like, but I definitely want my videos to have more intent behind them. I also want to bring back the positivity of this channel, but of course with the nuance that I've gained throughout these past couple of years. I really want to promote healthy media criticism, and that's something that takes time, effort, and integrity. It's not to say, however, that I want to stop making videos about toxic fans or fandoms, or other creators or influencers that I think are problematic. No, I still want to make those videos because I truly am passionate about trying to make a more positive experience for people online, and that requires calling out those who I think go against this. However, I want to make sure that I don't turn toxic myself, which I feel has been happening recently, at least to some extent. My videos have begun to lose nuance, and therefore my message has also suffered because of it. I can't confidently say that I'm a positive influence anymore, but I want to try to be. That's why I want to spend more time with my videos once again. This also means that I'll be needing your support more than ever. Your support, whether it's positive or negative, is always something that I cherish. And what I've always wanted with YouTube is to create a community where people feel welcome, appreciated, and heard. It is difficult, especially since I have a knack for making enemies with much larger communities, but I think it's possible to make this work, and I won't ever stop trying. So I really hope that you'll stick by me in the future, whatever that future might be, because I don't know yet, but I want to find out, and I can promise you that I will at least try my hardest to stay true to myself and make content that I can be proud of. I sometimes make mistakes, and I may still have many failures yet to come, but with your support, I believe I can overcome it. Now, I don't know if any of what I've been saying in this video makes any sense whatsoever. I've tried to create some structure, but I may have just made this video longer and more confusing than it needed to be. I just felt like I needed to take a look back at my journey here on YouTube because I think sometimes we tend to forget where we came from. This internal struggle is something I've been dealing with for a little while now, and I don't like not having a direction to go in. But that's something I need to figure out, and at the very least, I've been able to get some of my thoughts out there. And by writing it all down, I feel a little bit of clarity. I've also raised many new questions for myself to ponder about, but overall I think I can go into tomorrow with a new goal in mind. Be more me. Make videos that I feel passionate about, while simultaneously making sure those videos give me meaning. There's a lot to consider, but I just want to thank you very, very much for watching this far. If you did, then please do let me know whatever thoughts you have down in the comments. Again, this is the time to be as constructive as possible. Give me all your thoughts, whether it be about things you like about my videos, things you don't like, generally just any criticism you have of me is very welcome. This community is not just for me, it's for all of you too, so please help me make it better for all of us. As usual, I'd like to thank my patrons, which includes our turf captain, Ben Joseph. I appreciate each and every one of my viewers very dearly. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, stay safe, and peace out.